Welcome to the Dr. OK Show. I am Dr. OK, and I know you are here because you love all of the statistics and all of the punishment that I dole out to the superstars every single week. So let's get it started with our final 2024 recap video for best and worst records, streaks, and STFs. So let's get right to it. We're gonna do our top 5 countdowns in a whole bunch of categories. So let's start off with top 5 most singles wins for Raw males. So at number 1, Jey Uso leads the way at 16 wins. He finished at 16-8 and of course won the IC title. Gunther is second with 15 wins and an incredible 15-3 record. And of course, his highlight was winning the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam. Braun Breaker is tied with Gunther for second with 15 wins, and he ended at 15-7, and he won the Intercontinental title 2 different times. And we then have a 3-way tie for 4th place with 14 wins, first with Damian Priest, who won the World Heavyweight title himself when he cashed in his Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania from Drew McIntyre, and he ends at 14-6. Speaking of Drew McIntyre, he also has 14 wins, and he ended at 14-8. Though he won at WrestleMania, he then, of course, got cashed in just 5 minutes later. And lastly, Sami Zayn also had 14 wins. He ended at 14-13, and his biggest win was defeating Gunther for the IC title at WrestleMania. On the SmackDown side, we had LA Knight lead with 18 singles wins. He ended at 18-7-1, and his highlight was defeating Logan Paul for his first singles title, which was the United States Championship at SummerSlam. Cody Rhodes was second with 17 wins. He had an incredible 17-1 singles record, and of course, he finished the story at WrestleMania. Randy Orton is next, and it is a huge drop down to him with 8 wins. He had an 8-6-2 singles record, and well, he unfortunately didn't take home any gold this year. Then the closest he got was making it to the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, but he lost to Gunther there and then lost to him again later. Also tied with Orton is Andrade. He had 8 wins and he was 8-9-1, and he made it to Game 7 of a best-of-7 series against Carmelo Hayes, but that one didn't really end conclusively, so he went 3-3-1 in that series. And we have another 3-way tie, this time leading off with Braun Strowman with 7 wins. He went 7-4-1. His biggest win was in that last Monster Standing match. Then Santos Escobar had 7 wins. He ended at 7-8, and he got close to the US title several times, but didn't quite get over the hump. And then Carmelo Hayes also had 7 wins, and almost half of those were in that best-of-7 series, and he ends at 7-13-3. Now for the Raw females, we have Io Sky leading the way with 10 singles wins. She ended at 10-5, and since she lost the title at WrestleMania, I suppose her best highlight was defending it before that. Anyways, Liv Morgan also ties for first with 10 wins. She went 10-7, and we'll say her number 1 highlight was actually winning the Crown Jewel Championship, because she got pretty emotional in that win, and of course that gave her 2 titles at once. Lyra Valkyria is next. She went 8-6 to have 8 total wins, and she got to the finals of both the Queen of the Ring and to the Women's IC title tournaments. Becky Lynch is surprisingly 4th. She had 6 wins to finish 6-6, and she won a Women's Battle Royal to win the vacant title when Rhea Ripley got injured. And speaking of Rhea, she is 5th with 5 wins. She went 5-1 in singles action, and I guess that means her defense against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania is her biggest match of the year, because she couldn't quite get it back against Liv during calendar year 2024. And then next on SmackDown for the females, we had Nia Jax leading the way with 13 wins, and she ended at 13-8. Her biggest win was defeating Bayley at SummerSlam. Who is next? So Bayley had 11 wins. She was 11-4-1, and winning the Women's Match of the Year against Io Sky at WrestleMania is her best match. Bianca Belair is next with 8 wins, which is pretty surprisingly since she focused most of her time in the tag division, but she still went 8-8 in singles matches. Then Tiffany Stratton actually tied her with 8 wins, going 8-10-1, and her highlight was winning the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And lastly, also tying those two is Naomi. She had 8 wins as well. She finished at 8-11-1, and she was only able to get close a few times, so I guess being the #1 contender would be her top match. Up next are our top 5 most tag wins. First for the Raw males. Now this is individually and not a tag team, and you'll see how that's gonna go here very soon. So we'll start with Finn Balor. He had 12 wins and he ended at 12-8, so I guess since he started the year as a champion, his best win then would have been when he regained the titles with Jaden McDonough. And his first tag team partner was Damian Priest, who actually had 9 wins in the tag division, ending at 9-2. And since he lost the tag titles with Balor at WrestleMania, I suppose his highlight would just be defending them several times before that. Third is The Miz. He also had 9 wins to tie with Priest. He ended at 9-6. And of course, winning the Raw tag team titles, then becoming the World Tag Team titles at WrestleMania with R-Truth was certainly his highlight. And then JD McDonough is 4th, and also tying those two with 9 wins. He ended at 9-12, and of course, winning the titles with Balor was his highlight. And then we have a 5-way tie with 8 wins for the rest of this group. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate both went 8-5. R-Truth went 8-6. And Akam and Razar went 8-8. Up next for SmackDown males, we have 4 individuals with 11 tag wins. First, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins of the Street Profits. They both went 11-9-1, and they never finished getting that gold, so I guess any #1 contender match where they won was the best that they could do. Then tying them was Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano. They both had 11 wins. They went 11-11-1, and I think the second time they won the tag titles by defeating the Motor City Machine Guns probably actually holds a higher standing for them the way they were able to win that and overcome any troubles they may have had. And then in 5th place is surprisingly Tama Tonga. He had 10 wins. He went 10-3-1, and indeed, with Jacob Fatu, originally he won the tag team gold for the Bloodline. Now on the Raw side for females, Kairi Sane actually led the women with 11 wins in the tag division. She went 11-10-2, and she won the tag gold with the Kabuki Warriors and Asuka early in the year. Then Zoe Stark and Shayna Baszler are both 2nd and 3rd with 10 wins. They went 10-10, and they never touched gold themselves, so merely trying to defeat Jade and Bianca was probably the best they could do. Up next is Asuka, and she had 6 wins. She went 6-3-1, and she did win those titles with Kairi, so that would be her highlight. And in 5th place is Io Sky. She also had 6 wins like the other 2 Damage Control members, and she ended 6-5-1, but she never got over that hump to win those titles. Now on the SmackDown side for the females, Bianca Belair crushed everyone with 20 tag team wins. She went 20-1, and I have to imagine the first time that she defeated the Kabuki Warriors would be her highlight. And her tag team partner originally, Jade Cargill, had 17 wins. She went 17-1, and of course she would have the same highlight. Then Naomi got 9 wins in the tag division. She went 9-2, surprisingly considering she didn't really have a tag partner set for most of the year, but when she teamed with Bianca to win her own tag team championship by taking it off of Jade, that certainly would be her highlight. Up next is Bayley, and she had 6 tag wins. She went 6-3-1, again very impressive because she never had a true tag team partner for the entire year. And lastly, Candice LeRae clocks in with 5 wins. She did, however, just go 5-10-2. She got a couple PLE chances, so I guess that's as good as it got for her. Now, flipping over to the negative side, we have the top 5 most singles losses. First, for the Raw males, Dominic Mysterio is tied for first with 13 losses. He had just a 3-13 record. Up second is Big Bronson Reed. He also had 13 losses, a little bit better record though at 9-13-1. Sami Zayn is surprisingly also tied with those two with 13 losses. He still, however, had an above 500 record at 14-13-1, so he actually showed up on both of these lists. Finn Balor is next. He had 10 losses and a really bad 1-10 record, so it's amazing that he even got a World Heavyweight Championship title shot. And lastly, Ludwig Kaiser also had 10 losses. He had a 4-10-1 record, and it's also very surprising that he got several IC title chances as well. Now for the SmackDown males, Carmelo Hayes kicks this off with 13 losses as well. He went 7-13-3. Andrade is second with 9 losses. He went 8-9-1, so I guess since we had a full 7-game series, they both were able to get several wins and several losses. AJ Styles is next with 8 losses. He went a mere 2-8-1 before he kept getting injured and missing a whole bunch of time. Shinsuke Nakamura tied Styles with 8 losses and he went just 3-8, but at least things worked out for him, capturing the US title. Also tied, we have Kevin Owens, surprisingly with 8 losses to finish at 4-8-1, but he is your Winged Eagle champion, so I think that is what matters the most. And lastly in this group, also tied, Santos Escobar, 8 losses at 7-8. Now for the Raw females, we have Zelina Vega way out ahead with 11 losses. She went just 1-11, so it's amazing that she was even able to get a title shot. Shayna Baszler is next. She had 9 losses and went just 1-9 on the year. Tying her was Ivy Nile. She had 9 losses as well. She went 2-9-1 and lost her only title shot. Zoe Stark, a little bit better, I guess, at 4-9, but still on this list with 9 losses. She at least won a match in each of the 2 tournaments. Then we have Natalya with 7 losses. She was only able to win 1 singles match at 1-7. And lastly, this person doesn't seem to belong here, but Liv Morgan ties Natalya with 7 losses. However, Liv, of course, much better at 10-7, so she shows up on both of these lists. Now on to SmackDown females, we had Michin leading the way, if that's what leading is, with 12 big losses. She ended up at 6-12. So then Piper Niven was next. She only had 11 losses, but she also had 0 wins at 0-11. Tying Piper was Naomi with 11 losses. She fared much better, however, at 8-11-2. Chelsea Green is next at 10 losses and just a 5-10 record, but she is your inaugural Women's US Champion. And lastly, tying her is Tiffany Stratton with 10 losses. She finished at 8-10-1 and was still holding that briefcase at the end of 2024. Now let's flip on over to the top 5 most tag losses. First on Monday Night Raw for the males, we have Xavier Woods leading the pack with 12 losses. He ended at 6-12-1-1, but hopefully an attitude adjustment will fix that for 2025. JD McDonough somehow led with 12 losses as well. He went just 9-12, even though he was the tag champion for nearly half of the year. Kofi Kingston had 11 tag losses. He went 7-11-1-1, just 1 less loss than his New Day brother in Xavier Woods. Then Dominic Mysterio, he had 9 losses, going 5-9 in all tags. And we unbelievably have a 6-way tie with 8 losses. Akira Tozawa was 1-8. Both Brutus and Julius Creed were 5-8. Akam and Razar were 8-8. And Finn Balor, by himself, still above 500 for him and had tag team gold on 2 separate occasions. He was 12-8. Now on the SmackDown side, leading the way was both Grayson Waller and his partner from A-Town Down Under, Austin Theory. They both had 11 losses and were both 5-11. Then up next, appearing on both of these lists, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa of DIY. They also both had 11 losses and were 11-1. And then lastly, we had Elton Prince and Kit Wilson of Pretty Deadly. They both had 10 losses and were very awful at 1-10. Now on the Raw female side, we had quite a list of ties here with Kaden Carter with 10 losses and her partner Katana Chance also with 10 losses. They went 4-10. Then surprisingly enough, Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark of the Pure Fusion Collective, they had 10 losses and they went 10-10. Then Kairi Sane by herself with a couple different partners from Damage Control. She had 10 losses as well, but she was at least above 500 at 11-10-2. Now on the SmackDown female side, Candice LeRae blew away the competition. She had 12 tag losses at 5-12. Then Indy Hartwell, unfortunately she didn't make it to the end of the year, so she only had 8 losses and she was 4-8. Tiffany Stratton was pretty terrible at tag matches. She had 6 losses and was 6-1. Nia Jax, also not good at tags. She had 5 losses and was 2-5. And then Piper Niven and Chelsea Green both also had 5 losses. They were 2-5. So with that, let's move away from the best and the worst records to the best and the worst winning and losing streaks to end 2024. And we did this just in September, so you wouldn't think much has changed, but a lot has changed. So let's get to it, but we'll start with one that hasn't changed, the longest singles winning streak to end the year for the males, Cody Rhodes. He has 14 consecutive singles wins, and his last loss was still to Drew McIntyre all the way back on February 19th, 2024. Now on the female side, as of the end of the year, very key to point out here, it was Liv Morgan. She had just a mere streak of 4 wins. Her last loss was on October 5th, 2024 with that shark cage match at Bad Blood. Now you might realize that she's lost since then, but for these purposes, that doesn't matter. And we're going to see that a few more times here. Next, with the longest tag winning streak to end the year for the males, Sami Zayn had a streak of 5, and his last loss was all the way back on October 9th, 2023, as he only had 3 tag matches in 2024. Just like Liv, he found a way to immediately blow that streak in 2025, but it doesn't matter for our purposes. Then on the female side, I think you know who this one's going to be. It's Bianca Belair. She's got a 13-match tag winning streak with her last and only loss on June 15th at Clash at the Castle when she and Jade lost to Fire and Dawn. Then for the longest overall winning streak of any kind of match, first for the males, we had Cody Rhodes yet again. He has 11 straight wins. His last loss was at Money in the Bank on July 6, 2024 when he, Owens, and Orton lost to the Bloodline. Now for the females, it yet again is Bianca Belair. She had just a streak of 5, and her last loss was very recently on November 22nd, 2024, when she went to help out Jade, who had just been attacked. But yet again, she has already lost that when she lost the Fatal 4-Way match. So let's go on the other side of the equation with the longest losing streaks to end the year. So first we'll start with the longest singles losing streak to end the year, first for the males. That is now Otis by himself. He has 16 straight singles losses. That dates all the way back to November 7th, 2022. So come on, Otis, we need you to finally get a win here. You got awfully close against Chad Gable, so let's fire that up one more time and find a way to get that win. On the female side, it's also now a pretty long streak with Piper Niven having lost 13 consecutive singles matches. Her last win was on October 16th, 2023. Now let's go on over to the longest tag losing streak to end the year. First, for the males, we have a tie because it is Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde of the LWO. They have a 13 tag match losing streak with their last win all the way back on January 20th, 2023. Now for the females, it's a lot different story because you would be surprised to know that it is PFC's Shayna Baszler and Zoe Stark. They have 6 consecutive tag losses with their last win on July 29th, 2024. That's pretty surprising, I have to say, that they have not won a tag match in that long. Maybe they need to get right back to it now that the calendar has flipped to 2025. Now for the longest overall losing streak to end the year in any kind of match. First, for the males, it is Joaquin Wilde with 16 straight losses. His last win was that very same match we already talked about on January 20th, 2023, and he is only ahead of Cruz del Toro because he had one more singles match than he did, and of course he lost that match. So he's leading 16-15. Now on the female side, it is yet again Piper Niven. She has 9 consecutive overall losses. Her last win was a tag win with Chelsea on May 31st, 2024. So that's it for our streaking. So finally, we're gonna wrap this up with the most suspensions, terminations, and fines of the year, which of course that I hand out to all those wrestlers who are breaking the rules every single week on WWE programming. So let's start it off with most fines among Raw males. We have Finn Balor leading the way with 25 fines, followed by JD McDonough with 23 fines, Dominic Mysterio with 21 fines, Carlito with 20, and then even Damian Priest with 14. So if you were in the Judgment Day at any point of the year, you were sure to rack up fines on Monday Night Raw. So here's one bonus. The leader for non-Judgment Day wrestlers, we had Karrion Kross with 11. Now for the SmackDown males, very similar pattern as you might guess. We had Solo Sikoa with 16 fines, Tama Tonga with 14 fines, Jacob Fatu tied him with 14 fines, and Tonga Loa had 13 fines. Now to get 5th place, we have a 3-way tie with Logan Paul with 10, very impressive considering how little he shows up, Cody Rhodes with 10, and then also Grayson Waller with 10. For the females, first for Monday Night Raw, we had Liv Morgan blowing away the competition with 21 fines. Then with a big drop, we have Shayna Baszler with 13 fines. Scarlett, who didn't wrestle a single match for the entire year, she still managed 13 fines. Then Rhea Ripley, despite missing all that time, had 12 fines. And lastly, we'll end it with Io Sky with 10 fines. Now for the SmackDown females, we have Nia Jax leading the way with 10 fines, and tying her is her partner for much of the year, Tiffany Stratton, also with 10 fines. Elektra Lopez is next. She had 8 fines, despite only being in a couple matches for the entire year. Then we have Piper Niven with 6 fines, and we'll end this list with Bayley with 5 fines. Now let's go from fines up a notch to suspensions. So first we have the Raw males. Drew McIntyre actually kicks this one off with 15 big suspensions. You know, if McIntyre was involved, he was certainly going to get his money's worth, so he is ahead of all the Judgment Day members. But let's get back to all of them. So Dominic Mysterio leads the Judgment Day and is second overall with 10 suspensions, followed by Finn Balor with 9 suspensions, and tied with his tag partner JD McDonough, also with 9 suspensions, and then Big Bronson Reed with all of those tsunamis comes up next with 7 suspensions. Then on SmackDown, I think we're going to see something pretty similar here. Solo Sikoa still leads the way with 18 suspensions, but Kevin Owens, just like Drew McIntyre, knows how to get his money's worth. He is second with 17 suspensions. Tama Tonga right back to the bloodline with 16 suspensions, followed by Jacob Fatu with 14 suspensions, and then Tongaloa with 10 suspensions. Now for the Raw females, it's Zoe Stark leading the way with 7. I wasn't quite expecting that. I was probably expecting Liv Morgan with 5 suspensions, tying Shayna Baszler with 5 as well. Then, also from PFC, we have Sonya Deville with 4 suspensions, and very surprisingly, despite not appearing since May, tying Sonya is Becky Lynch with 4 suspensions. Pretty amazing there, pretty amazing. Then on the SmackDown side, leading all of the women, we have Nia Jax doing most of her own dirty work, so she has 9 suspensions. Up second, Elektra Lopez, trying to help out Legado del Fantasma, got 4 suspensions. Then we have a tie with Tiffany Stratton with 3 suspensions, Bayley also with 3 suspensions, and then Chelsea Green, 3 suspensions. And so let's go to terminations. We didn't have many of them, so on the Raw side for the males, there's only one man left, and it is Big Bronson Reed with 3 terminations. During the summer, he was just going a little too crazy with those tsunamis and attacking lots of WWE officials. We had no choice but to fire him 3 different times, but I guess once he heals up, he'll actually come back to Raw in 2025. Then on the SmackDown side, this actually also happened on the same episode of one of Bronson Reed's terminations. It's Braun Strowman. He's got a mere 1, but he also went a little bit too crazy one particular Monday Night Raw when he was challenging Big Bronson Reed. And to wrap it up, we have the most total STFs. First, for the Raw males, again, we're going to see pretty much everybody from the Judgment Day. Finn Balor leads the pack with 34 STFs. Then JD McDonough is second with 32. Dominic Mysterio right behind at 31. And Carlito coming up from behind with 26. And then the leader of the non-Judgment Day members in 5th place, it's Drew McIntyre with 24. Now on the SmackDown side for the males, of course, it's Solo Sikoa leading the way with 34 total STFs, followed by Tama Tonga with 30, then Jacob Fatu with 28, and then Kevin Owens is going to sneak in next with 24, and then right back to the Bloodline with Tongaloa's 23. Now for the Raw females, there's no doubt about it, Liv Morgan in the lead here by far with 26, followed by Shayna Baszler with 18, then Zoe Stark with 16, tying her, again, never appearing in a match, Scarlett with 16, and then Rhea Ripley finishes it off with 15. And finally, for the SmackDown females, of course, Nia Jax leads the way with 19, then Tiffany Stratton with 13, then right behind her is Elektra Lopez with 12, and then tied for 4th, we have Bayley with 8, and Piper Niven also with 8. So those are all the records, streaks, and STS that you needed to know for 2024. And if you missed part 3 of our 2024 grades, this time covering the women's roster, make sure to go right on over here. And if you don't, I may not be able to give you a fine, but you will certainly get a not okay.